This is Ezekiel. So I'm the founder of Asia Forex Mentor. This is the part 2 series of the webinar with M Trading. So today's topic is on the idea of to stop gambling, right? To stop gambling and to get the probabilities on your side itself. So you see, last week we talked about getting the probabilities on our end. So we also talk about, for example, if we are in a poker table, we do not want to be the tourist, we do not want to be the fish, right? We want to be the seasoned player who is at the table, and every now and then he will see a new guy that pops by on the table. He thinks the guy who comes in, the guy would think that he will be there to own the table right straight. The guy would think that he is the one that is going to kill the table. And guess what? At the end of the day, he'll be the one that is wiped off, and he'll be the one that will take the loss. And the seasoned player, the seasoned poker player, will be there the next day to wait for another guy like him who thinks that he's out to nail the table itself. So you see, the same goes in Forex trading itself. When we trade, every now and then, every other day, I'll hear someone talking about, hey, I just started trading in the Forex, and guess what? I made X amount of money yesterday. And guess what? I make a 100% growth yesterday itself. And you see, the thing about this is that, all right, I would say, okay, that's great, that's fantastic, cool. So let's talk about this maybe 1 month later. And a month later, I'll meet the guy again, I'll meet the lady again, and I'll ask her, so how's trading? Likely or not, she will go all quiet, and she will probably say, or he will probably say that, man, it was going all great until, you know, that trade when I thought that was the winning trade, and it just went against me and I busted that account. But it's all right. It's all right. I'm sure that I'll be back again, and I'm sure that I'll be making good money again from Forex, right? It was just a bad luck. It was just a one-off thing. So you see, when we trade Forex, we are like the seasoned poker player. This is something that I see every now and then. Every now and then, I'll get people who tells me more or less the same story. So I'm not too I wouldn't be too excited if someone who just started trading and told me, hey, I made 1,000% profit in the last week itself. I would say, great, that's fantastic. But what I do know is that could this just be a one-off thing or what? So I will wait for you to come back to me a month later or 2 months later, and then we will talk about, are you still maintaining the 1,000 growth every week? Are you still maintaining the 100% growth every week? Or where are you now? How's your account doing right now? You see, a lot of times that when people are going 100% growth in a week, right? It's not that it's not possible, right? It is possible. But the question is, can you make 100% every week consistently? If you can, right? If you can, you ought to be the richest man in the world, right? I'm not saying you can't. I'm saying you can, right? You got to be a heck of a lucky streak to be on 100% every week. Or for example, how can you make 100% every week? Or how do you even make 100% a month? I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible. But how do you trade off that? You see, a lot of people when they go into trading, they will say, all right, I'm going to make $5,000 a month, and this is going to be a good consistent income. When I make $5,000 a month, that will be great. I can look at quitting my job, and I could look at making Forex trading a full-time income itself. So I would say, great, that's fantastic. $5,000 a month is very realistic. But my question to you is, what is your trading capital? If you are going to start off your capital with, let's say, $1,000, and you are looking to make $5,000 on your first month itself. So in essence, you're looking to make 500% profit from your trading account. So let me know which vehicle out there be it in whatever investment out there, that can make you 500% in a month. You put in 1,000, you get back 500, you get back $5,000, right? It is possible in Forex. But in order to do that, let me ask you, if you are going to make 500% profit a month, how many percent are you going to risk per trade? If you are going to risk, for example, all in, let's say if you're going to go all in, right? So all in means what? You go in with a, let me just draw this. For example, you go in with a 100% of your capital for a trade, which means that if your capital is $1,000, you go all in on a trade, and let's say you enter on a trade. Let's say, let me just change my color, right? Let's say you enter on a trade over here, right? You enter a trade over here, and here is your TP, which is your take profit, right? So let's say this is a bar, for example. You enter your trade over here, and then the market just go right up, and then you got TP. Fantastic. You make 100% a trade, and for example, if that trade, your risk-reward ratio, for example, if, let me just do this in another color. For example, let's say you enter here, right? In every trade, in order to calculate the lot size, in essence, you need to have a stop loss. So let's say this is your stop loss. You enter here, you intend, if the market do come down, you will get stop out here. So for example, let's say the distance from here to here is 20 pips. So in Forex, we call it as pips. And if the market goes up, for example, let's say our TP level, and the distance from your entry point, here is your entry point, right? Here's your entry point, to your take profit target is also 20 pips. So which means that your risk reward ratio, which is your R risk to reward ratio, is 1:1, right? So which means that if you risk $1,000 because you decided to go all in simple general terms, all right, I'm not including spreads or anything, right? And you get out your TP at also 20 pips. All right, you went all in, your capital, you go in 1,000. Wow, fantastic. You make 1,000 on that trade itself. Your capital is now 2,000. So you have grown 100% on that trade itself. Fantastic. So the question is, maybe on the next trade, you repeat a similar thing, and then you went all in. So now you have 2,000. You went all in again, 100%, and now you have 4,000. Just $1,000 more to go for you to hit your target. So my question is, how many times can you go all in before you bust your account? Right? You are eventually going to bust your account. The question is, when? So you see, for example, if you went all in and said the first 3 shots, you went all in and you made $1,000, you made into first time 1,000 become 2,000, 2,000 become 4,000, 4,000 become 8,000. Wow, fantastic. And then what if the next trade, you went all in again because you think that is a sure win trade, and then guess what? Usually when trades goes that you think was sure win, usually ends up what? At least in my opinion, every time that the trade that I think sure wins usually ends up as a sure lose. So boom, there goes your account, all gone once again. So but there you were thinking, hey, I made from $1,000, I turned it into $8,000. That's a freaking 800% growth. Where else can I get such a growth in any investment vehicles out there, right? So what do you do again? You find your account again and you repeat the same thing again, because the last time round it was bad luck. And this time round, when you find it again and you think that this trade is sure win, you go all in again 100%, but boom, the first trade that you entered, you make a loss. Your 1,000 is gone right away. So it's essentially, what are you doing? It's gambling, right? It's gambling. You can go 100%. All right, you may think, in no way I will go 100%. All right, fine. How about 50? All right, you may say, no, I'm not going 50. Fine. How about 10? You see, realistically, if your capital, if let's say at the start you put $1,000, right? If your capital at the start you put $1,000, and you say, no, I'm going to play it safe, right? I'm going to play it safe. So I've read on the internet that my risk should be only 1 to 3% per trade, right? So 1 to 3%, fantastic. So maybe I'll go 2, right? 2% per trade of a capital of $1,000 is what? $20. So my question is, if your target is to make, let's say, $2,000 a month, for example, let's say I want to make it more realistic right now, I want to make it $2,000 a month. And if per trade you're risking 2%, if one win will only make you $20, how many wins are you going to take to make your $2,000? Right? You need 100. You need 100 wins to make $2,000, right? And that is provided in that 100 trades, they are all winners. But that is also not possible. If 100 trades you're all winners, then literally you got 100% mark, which is not really possible, right? At least we can strive for, every time when we want to trade professionally, we will strive to go for a probability of above 70% up, right? So out of 100 trades, let's say you're a pretty good trader, you get a 70% winning trade, right? So you make 70 wins, you make 30 loss. So 100 trades still doesn't do. You need more than 100 trades. You probably need around, what, 150 trades. Are you going to get 150 trades a month at 2% risk? You will be spending your whole freaking month doing what? Looking at your charts and finding trades to go in and out, in and out, in and out, just to clock your 150 trades. So the question will be that, hey, if that is the case, and if your target is $2,000 a month, which means that, let me put this straight, 2% is not for you. You need to set the right risk-reward ratio. It's not based by what you read on the internet. Internet says the guideline is 1 to 3%. All right, I stick to 1 to 3%. There is no such thing as a strict 1 or 2 or 3%. All these will come down to your own personality. All this will come down to how much money you want to make. All this will come to how much money you can afford to lose. For example, if you think that, hey, $20 for capital of 1,000 is too little, it's not worth my time. So let's say I want to make $100 a trade. So okay, that's cool, that's fine. $100 per trade means what? $100 per trade means you are going to risk what? 10% of your capital. So okay, so you can risk 10% of your capital, and that is good. And you're going to make $100 a trade. You can easily reach a profit of maybe a $200, $300 a day, or maybe $100 a day, which is fine, which is actually very good. And you'll be on track to your $2,000 a month in no time. But then my question to you is, how long can you keep up with 10% a trade, right? For example, if you're risking 10% a trade, and sometimes bad luck happens, sometimes bad luck strikes. If you lose maybe 3 or even 5 losing streaks in a row. So for example, if your capital is $1,000 and you lose 5 losing streak in a row at 10% of your capital, so which means what? You're down where? Your $1,000 is now become $500, right? You're halfway down. So then my question to you is, are you going to continue risking 10% now that your capital is left with $500? Because you want to make back the other $500, right? Correct? It's easy for it to be from 1,000 to 500. But it's not easy for you to grow from 500 to 1,000. Okay? So, and then likely more often than not, what would you do? Instead of trading 10% of your capital, because right now it's $500, you'll do what? You'll do maybe what? 20%, 30%, 50%, or even what? 100%. And before what? Before you know it, the next thing you know, when you trade with such a high risk amount, your account will just go bust. So you see, these are one of the most common mistakes that a lot of traders go into, and they realize that, hey, Forex, you can't make money. Because why? No, I've tried this, I traded something, plus minus they traded somewhat somewhere or not what I've just talked about. And then they all start saying that, no, you can't make money in Forex. That's bullshit, right? That's bullshit. You can absolutely make money in Forex. But if you trade it like what the example I showed just now, which is in essence gambling, then by all means, you aren't going to make money in Forex because the probability is against you. So therefore, in order to trade it in the right way, right? In order to trade it in the right way, in order to stop gambling, you got to trade it in a proper percentage that is the same every single trade. And you got to set it at a point, at a percentage whereby you are comfortable. I would definitely not recommend anything above 10%. In my opinion, I would not recommend anything above 10% because bad luck happens. 10%, all right, I can still probably close one eye, which is still fine. But generally, I would say nothing above 10%, right? And you first, at the start, you got to set your momentum right. You got to set your idea right itself. You are not going to make from $1,000, $5,000 in a month. It's not really possible. If your capital has grown from 1,000 to 10,000 with proper growth month after month, then at 10,000, by making 50% a month, so from 10,000 you make 50%, you make 5,000 a month. That is very, very possible. But if from 1,000 you want to make 5,000 a month, that's a 500% growth. That I would say you will be having greed in your mind. You will be having a fear of losing your mind. When all this emotion comes to place, likely or not, you will just end up gambling. So therefore, what I want you all to do is to think of the amount, the amount that you want to fund, the X amount that you want to fund, right? X amount that you want to fund. For example, when you want to fund, how much are you going to fund? And realistically think that, hey, of course, everybody wants to make $1 million from Forex itself in a single trade. But we know that, hey, it's not really possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm going to say you got to be a freaking lucky person, and likely or not, you'll be going all in or nothing in order to make it that way. So in order to make this game profitable, in order to be a consistently profitable trader, first you got to think about what is the amount that you're going to fund. And then think about how much can you afford to lose per trade. For example, if you decided to fund $10,000, and if you decided to fund, let's say, a $10,000 account, right? $10,000 account. Okay. Yep. Here we go. Right. So if you are risking 2% a trade, that is fine. 2% a trade for $10,000 capital, it's what? It's $200. So it's very realistic. You're risking $200 per trade. Ideally, you can easily make 10 wins per trade. You have at least made $2,000. So this is something that is realistic. And this is something that you can be constantly approachable, whereby you can approach this in a consistently approachable trade where every single trade you risk 2%, you feel nothing about that. For example, if you ask yourself, can I lose that $200 that day per trade, and can you still sleep like a baby that night? If you can, then fantastic. 2% is good for you. But if you think that, hey, no, I can't sleep losing $200 per trade, then guess what? 2% is not for you. But if you think about it, if you say that, no, $200 is too less, all right, then my question is, then where would you go? 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. For example, you say 5%. So it will be what? $500 per trade. So can you sleep at night losing $500 per trade and still sleep like a baby? If you can, and if you make, then 5% is for you. And then the next question is, will making $500 per trade be in line with your expectation in terms of your greed to make the income that you wish to get off from Forex? If $500 is good, then awesome. You have found the perfect balance where you're able to make the money that you want, and if you lose that money, you'll still be fine with it and still be able to sleep like a baby. Because the thing that I do not want you to do is that if you think that, hey, I want to make $500 a trade. All right, everybody wants to do that. For example, everybody wants to make $5,000 a trade or $500 a trade. But can you lose $500 a trade? We always think about winning. We forget about losing, right? If you can't afford to lose $500 a trade, you will end up watching the trade. You end up monitoring that trade. You end up doing a ton of silly things on that trade itself. And at the end of the day, you'll be over managing it. And if you're been trading a while, you know that when you over manage your trade, you end up, likely or not, that trade will not end up with a good win, or I would say likely a loss. So therefore, you got to find the perfect balance. So today's topic is about finding the balance in order for you to stray away from gambling and to look at this from a business point of view, to look at this from a professional point of view, to know that, hey, I'm in this game for the long term. I'm not in this game to make $1 million right off the table tomorrow. I'm in this game for the long term. I will trade. I will find my balance of my where I can afford to lose, and I would like the amount that I like to win. I would like to find that balance, and I'll take this percentage consistently every single trade. If I lose a trade, I'm fine with it. If I win a trade, I'm fine with it too. I'm not overly excited about any win, nor am I overly sad of any loss. When you're able to reach forex trading and approach it in the approach that I've just mentioned, you have set yourself in the right track where you have removed gambling from your idea, from the back of your mind, and you'll be one step forward onto your path into being a profitable trader itself. All right, so today's topic, it's about not to gamble, and this is an extremely important topic that a ton of traders may think that is too simple. A ton of traders will totally neglect it. The next time, go ahead and ask your friends, or even ask yourself, are you doing the things, the mistakes that I've just mentioned? And your friends who have started trading and say that trading isn't working for them, guess what? Ask them about this. Get them to watch this webinar, and they will find out the reason why, likely or not, it will be part of them, and it will be part of the mistakes that they made in their first, or I would say even seasoned traders who have been trading for 5 years or so are still making this mistake itself. Do not make this mistake, right? Approach trading in a consistent way, and you will see the light at the end of the tunnel. It isn't too far. You know, the tunnel in forex trading isn't a far off tunnel. As long as you get your checkbox checked right, this is one of the most crucial checkbox to check. When you have checked this checkbox every single time you trade, you are just a few boxes away to becoming a profitable trader itself. Okay, so that's all for today's webinar. Right, I will see you all on the next webinar itself.